The front door crashed into the wall so hard that my family photos rattled. A woman, somewhere in her 50s, stormed into my kitchen, face contorted with rage, waving a clipboard like it was a weapon. She wore a blazer with an HOA president's pin that caught the afternoon light pouring through my windows. "This is the third violation this month," she shrieked, her voice so shrill it could shatter glass. "Your grass is 5 inches too tall. Your garbage cans were visible for 37 minutes past collection time. And don't even get me started on that eyesore you call a mailbox." I froze in the doorway of my living room, coffee mug still in hand, watching a stranger parade through my home as if she owned it. She ran her fingers across my countertop to check for dust, then actually opened my refrigerator and peered inside with a disgusted expression. "Excuse me," I said, steadying my voice despite the shock coursing through me. "You need to leave. Now." She whirled around, bleached blonde hair whipping dramatically. "I am Karen Thompson, president of the Willowbrook HOA, and I have every right to inspect properties for compliance." As she reached for my phone on the counter, presumably to photograph some imagined violation, I stepped forward. Years of police training kicked in, and I spoke with the calm authority that had diffused countless tense situations. "Ma'am, you've just committed a felony." 3 weeks earlier, I'd moved into this supposedly quiet suburban neighborhood, hoping for peace after 20 years on the force. Detective James Morrison, that's me, a decorated officer with commendations for excellence in service. All I wanted was a place to unwind, tend to my garden, and enjoy weekend barbecues. Karen Thompson had other plans. From day one, she'd made it her mission to find fault with everything about my property. The mailbox was 2 inches too low. There was, according to her measuring tape, a microscopic oil stain on my driveway that allegedly violated subsection 12.4 of the HOA guidelines. She even complained my American flag was the wrong shade of blue. I tried to stay respectful, nodding politely as she rattled off infractions that would make a parking enforcement officer roll their eyes. Other neighbors warned me about her with knowing looks and sympathetic pats on the shoulder. "That's just Karen," they'd sigh. "She's been president for 5 years and treats it like she's running a military base." But I'd dealt with difficult people before. I figured I could handle one overzealous HOA president. Everything changed after the barbecue incident. I'd invited a few neighbors over on a Saturday afternoon, nothing wild, just burgers and some music at a reasonable volume. We wrapped up by 8 p.m., well within any noise ordinance. But Karen showed up at 6:30, tape measure in hand, calculating the distance between my grill and the property line. 4.7 feet, she announced triumphantly. HOA regulations clearly state all cooking equipment must be at least 5 feet from property boundaries. After that, her harassment escalated into psychological warfare. Anonymous notes appeared on my door daily, typed in aggressive all caps. "Your hedges are asymmetrical. Your doormat is not regulation brown. Your car was parked facing the wrong direction for 14 minutes. She began taking photos over my fence, camera flash going off at all hours. Once I even caught her on a stepladder trying to peer into my garage window. When I confronted her, she claimed she was documenting architectural inconsistencies. Next came the gossip campaign. Suddenly, neighbors I'd never met knew intimate details about my supposed violations. Karen created a neighborhood Facebook group solely dedicated to criticizing my property. She even photoshopped images to make my lawn look browner than it actually was. That fateful afternoon, I was in my backyard replacing some fence boards warped by recent rain. Therapeutic work? The kind that clears your mind after years of serious crimes. Noise-canceling headphones on, classic rock drowning out the world, I was completely unaware of what was happening inside my home. Karen had been watching, waiting. She saw me go to the backyard, noticed I'd left the front door unlocked while carrying lumber through the house. In her twisted mind, this was the chance to find evidence to get me expelled from her perfect neighborhood. She slipped through my front door like a thief, though she'd probably argue she was a health inspector. Her sensible flats barely made a sound on my hardwood floors as she invaded my privacy with the confidence of someone who'd never faced real consequences. I finished the fence after about 45 minutes and went inside for water. The sight that greeted me made my blood run cold. though not from fear. 20 years of police work had taught me to recognize criminal behavior when I saw it. There was Karen, bent over my dining table, photographing my mail with her phone, personal letters, bills, even a birthday card for my mother, spread out like evidence in her imaginary case against me. She'd already rifled through my kitchen drawers, several hanging open. A notebook on my counter had been flipped through, and she'd taken pictures of my wall calendar. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" I asked, my voice carrying the same tone I used during interrogations. She straightened without a flicker of embarrassment, puffing out her chest and clutching her clipboard like a shield. "I'm conducting a lawful HOA inspection. You've been reported for numerous violations, and I have the authority to investigate." "No," I said, pulling out my phone to start recording. "You have zero authority to enter my home without permission. That's called breaking and entering, Karen. It's also trespassing, invasion of privacy, and, depending on what you photographed, potentially identity theft." She barked out a harsh laugh. "Don't be ridiculous. The HOA charter gives me full inspection rights. It's all perfectly legal." I couldn't help but smile. "Really? Show me where in the HOA charter it says you can enter private residences without consent." "I'll wait." Her face reddened as she flipped through her papers, searching for a justification that didn't exist. "It's implied," she snapped. "How else am I supposed to ensure compliance?" "From the outside, like a normal person," I replied, reaching for my wallet. "Let me show you something, Karen." The moment I flipped open my badge, her demeanor transformed. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. "Detective James Morrison," it read, along with my badge number and the city police department seal. "You're a cop," she whispered, her voice suddenly very small. 20 years on the force," I confirmed, pointing to the corner of my living room. "And that security camera has been recording since the moment you walked in. The one in my kitchen recorded everything, as did the camera by my front door that caught you walking in without permission." Her clipboard slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a clatter. "This is a misunderstanding," she stammered. "I knocked, and I thought I heard you say to come in. I was wearing my noise-canceling headphones, but I could still hear." I raised an eyebrow. "That's impressive hearing, Karen." Pulling out my work phone, I began dialing. "I'm calling this in. You can tell your version to the responding officers." "Wait." She lurched forward but froze when I lifted a warning hand. "We can settle this. I'll just leave, and we'll forget it ever happened." "That's not how crime works," I explained evenly. "You don't get to commit felonies and take them back after you're caught." Into the phone. I spoke. "Dispatch, this is Detective Morrison. Badge 47209. I need units at my residence for a burglary in progress. Suspect is still on site." Karen's knees buckled, and she collapsed into one of my dining chairs, the same one she'd leaned over while prying into my privacy. "Please," she begged, tears welling up. "I have a reputation. I run a real estate agency. This will ruin me." "You should have thought of that before breaking into a police officer's home," I said, keeping my eyes locked on hers but maintaining distance. "Or anyone's home, for that matter. My badge doesn't make this worse. It just means I know the exact charges you're facing." Within minutes, sirens wailed in the distance. Karen heard them too, and panic flashed in her eyes. "I'll resign from the HOA. I'll approve every violation. I'll pay for your new fence." "You really don't understand," I said as two uniformed officers entered through the open door. "This isn't about HOA politics anymore. It's about criminal behavior." I briefed them quickly, showing the footage on my phone. Their professional expressions shifted to outright shock as they watched Karen rifling through my belongings. Officer Martinez shook his head. "Ma'am," he said firmly, "stand up and place your hands behind your back." "You can't arrest me," Karen shrieked, leaping up. "I'm the HOA president. I know the mayor. My husband's a lawyer." "None of that matters," Martinez replied as he produced handcuffs. "You're under arrest for criminal trespass and unlawful entry." The metallic snap of the cuffs echoed through my dining room. Karen's face twisted in fury and humiliation as he read her rights. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court. This is ridiculous," she spat, thrashing against the restraints. "It's his word against mine." "Actually," I interrupted, holding up my phone, It's your actions against video evidence. High-definition video at that. As the officers let her out, she turned with venom in her eyes. You'll regret this. I'll sue for false arrest. I'll ruin you. The HOA will destroy you. Looking forward to it, I said with a wave as they escorted her outside. The entire neighborhood had gathered to watch. Every porch, driveway, and sidewalk was lined with residents who had endured her tyranny. Mrs. Chen, 2 doors down, began a slow clap that spread until the whole street joined in. Bob from across the street lifted his beer in salute. When the cruiser pulled away, Karen still shouted about lawsuits from the back seat. My next-door neighbor muttered with satisfaction, "About damn time someone stood up to her." The district attorney reviewed my footage along with witness statements from neighbors who saw her enter. The charges were clear: criminal trespass, unlawful entry, and attempted identity theft for photographing my documents. She faced up to 3 years in prison and $25,000 in fines. Her lawyer husband tried for a plea deal, but the prosecutor refused. 2 months later, Karen Thompson, the infamous terror of the Willowbrook HOA, stood before a judge. The sentence: 1 year of probation, $5,000 in fines, and 200 hours of community service. The legal punishment was nothing compared to the social fallout. The HOA board held an emergency meeting the very next day, voting unanimously to strip her of the presidency. She sat in the back row, tears streaking her face, while neighbor after neighbor described years of harassment and bullying. Her real estate agency dropped her within a week, citing reputational damage. The local paper ran her story with the headline, "HOA President Arrested After Breaking into Officer's Home," complete with her booking photo. As the judge finished reading her sentence, Karen's shoulders shook with silent sobs. The woman who once terrorized an entire neighborhood with measuring tapes and violation notices had finally lost the only thing she valued: her power.